What is up, my fellow movie nerds? My name's Barry King, and I am that weird movie nerd. The Tomorrow War, directed by Chris McKay, starring Chris Pratt and Yvonne Strahovski. Sorry to butcher that name. I know she's a fellow Australian, but I'm bad with names. So this movie is just like cool. It's a dope movie. I had fun in it. It was just a good watch, just a good chillax, just a good movie to not think, just to switch off and just be like, that's really fucking cool. So these characters, Dan, Lily, and Murray, like, instant connection. I loved them straight away. I mean, of course, you can't hate Chris Pratt. He's just so cool, he's so lovable, he's so fun, and he just brought life to this character that I don't think other people may have brought to this character. He brought such a heartfelt, heartwarming performance, and you just can't excuse that. You just can't. It's instant connection to the family at the start as well. Murray, little Murray, that is lovable. The mum, lovable. They're just lovable characters. I also love older Murray's and Dan's connection. Just, it's perfect, straight up. I'm not sure if it's Yvonne's smile and Chris Pratt's smile, but it was just, I just felt so warm when they saw each other and Dan was finding out that older Murray was older Murray, and you're just like, this is sweet, this is tender, I love this moment. Was that just me? I don't know. Having older Murray break down and explain to Dan about his death and how she coped with it and how she coped with the divorce of Dan and Lily in the future and all that was heartbreaking. It was tender. I loved it. Just knowing that little Murray was a little girl back at home and she just loved her dad so much and she wanted to be like him. It was heartbreaking to see that older Murray was just so broken about it, and like she tried to live up to her dad's expectations and she did, but like she was still broken, and it was beautiful. I want to talk about the characters that I didn't feel much for and didn't really care that much about, that being Dan's father, Slade, and also Gator, I think you read it as. I just didn't feel connected to these characters, probably because they're there just for solely the plot, and Gator is just there for a comic relief. I feel like they didn't really bring anything to the story other than plot things. And I hate that. I hate characters that are just there for the plot and you can feel it. Like, you know they're there for the plot. And then Gator's character, I just didn't feel a connection to him as like a friend should between Dan and Gator. I didn't feel that friendship, that connection that they tried to go for, which I hated because he seemed like such a nice guy and it just didn't work. And although Chris is a funny guy and Gator brought comedy, I just felt like there was too much comedy. It just didn't work, I feel like, for this kind of genre, for this type of situation, for this story. Like, sure, throw a couple of funny lines in there, funny quips, like Marvel quips. They don't feel thrown in there just to have a laugh. They feel like they're in place there just because that's what a character would say. But in this movie, they feel really shoehorned in. I just didn't like a lot of them in some of these serious moments. Let's talk about the VFX. The VFX in this were amazing, but I heard this was a $200 million movie, so I would hope so, that they were amazing. The portals were dope, just like how they were made and how they got transported. I mean, how they got transported was kind of how portals in other movies and games or TV shows work, but like the portal itself looked dope and I loved it. The muzzle flashes, I haven't really watched a real gun's muzzle flash before, but I'm pretty sure it shouldn't have that many sparks. Like, I was watching the muzzle flashes like from front on and they had a lot of sparks in them and it kind of brought me out of it for some reason. I'm like, oh, maybe it's like a futuristic gun or something, but if it was a futuristic gun they would have used lasers. And then it occurred to me that these just could be guns from our age and they just took them through the portal. The muzzle flashes threw me off. It's a nitpick, but it's there and I didn't like it, okay? And there were a lot of slow-mo moments in this. Some of them really worked and some of them were just like, yeah, cool, that's in slow motion. You got killed. Good on you. Zack Snyder uses a lot of slow-mo, but like he feels justified in his slow-mo in a lot of his slow-mo moments. And that's what I actually wrote down when I was writing down notes, is it's not Zack Snyder slow-mo. And I don't know if that's because I've just come to expect really dope slow-mo and really dope moments for slow-mo, but it just didn't work in some moments. In other moments, like I reckon like if there was like 1 or 2, maybe 3 moments, it worked really well, but just in that first stage when they're running through the city and people were dying, they were dying in slow-mo, I'm like, cool, you hit that car in slow motion and die on impact. Now, although the CGI was amazing and the creatures looked fucking dope, like you need dope creatures, and they achieved that in this. They were very dope creatures. The mash between CGI and real elements sometimes wasn't that good. And I'm not sure if that's because it was the CGI, the VFX artists company that they used, or if they ran out of time on some shots and they're just like, yeah, that's a good VFX shot. Like there's something janky about it, but like it's a good VFX shot. And I'm not saying that they were horrible, I'm just saying there was something iffy about some of the shots, how they didn't blend really well. But other than that, the CGI in this was phenomenal. Like you can't really critique it that much other than just the combining, the mashing of the two elements. Also, the camera angles were, like there was some funky camera angles as well that I was like, oh, you're here now. Whoa, yep, okay, that doesn't work. There was a couple times that happened. One of them was when they were being chased from the nest of the aliens and they're in the car and Muri was shooting, and there was a few janky camera angles. Maybe it was a CGI actually that was messed up, and I'm just like, camera angle, that wasn't nice. But there was just something in some scenes where the camera angles, they could have been better. Maybe it's the cinematographer, I don't know who it is. There's a lot of stuff that goes into these films, but some camera angles just had me going, ooh, yeah, okay. And I had a problem with the mixing as well in some areas. See, these are just problems I picked up throughout the movie, so I'm not sure if they're actually throughout the movie or if they're just in certain places, but I found that the music overpowered a lot of the dialogue and the sound effects sometimes. I'm just like, whoa, can you just get the mixer and just turn it down a scooch so I can hear these people talking or hear these cars being flipped? And I mean, you don't need to hear sound effects, but like with action you kind of do. Like you don't overpower sound effects with music most times, actually like almost any time, only if it's like a tender moment between talking, but you still don't overpower the talking with music. So there's some moments in this I'm like, whoa, turn it down a bit there, man. I don't only want to hear the sick score, I want to hear the sick sound effects and Foley and dialogue mixing that's happening as well. I did dabble on the aliens before, saying they were awesome, but I also want to comment on not just their looks, but how they act. Like, they're on four-legged and they seem like beasts, like animals, but they seem pretty intelligent as well. They seem like they were an actual enemy, an actual team fighting against this team, but they were aliens. They were just in a different scale and a different exoskeleton and all that. Did I say skell? And it was dope just to see them communicating and their tactical efforts and their tactical movement and their tactical tactics and all that, if you get what I mean. They weren't just this alien that attacked for the reason of attacking, like they actually had method to their madness, and it showed, and I love that. That's such good character antagonist stuff. I use stuff for lack of a better word. Also, that cave scene, well, the nest scene with the female alien was really dope. How it was such an enclosed place, and then everyone was getting thrown around, and then Muri jumped in and like was diving, and everybody was diving and weaving, and they seemed like actual trained professionals. That was such a cool scene because the alien was getting entangled and like you could see it trying to fling around, and just everything about that scene was dope. And just overall, the action in this movie was pretty amazing. I didn't really like when they were shooting at the aliens and nothing happened. Like, that's kind of like a different story about how you should be giving impact to your shots, but then again, the shots weren't really doing anything until that they aimed at like a weak spot. But you know, there was just useless bullets flying around, and it felt like nothing was happening and nothing they did was contributing, and I guess that's kind of what was happening. But you know, I want some shots to feel like they're hitting, because there was hundreds of aliens. At least kill like a few of them and make sure you remind the audience that these bullets are doing something, that they can do something to these aliens when used right. I also love that moment, and gamers, you can back me up here, when Muri was on the back of the car shooting all the aliens with that big gun. There were so many moments where they gave the characters this overpowered permission where they could just like destroy like so many, especially at the final scene at the base where they're like trying to get all the aliens before they breach the wall. That was dope. There's just so much destruction. So sorry, Dad's watching TV out there. Sorry about that noise. And just the action overall is just so delicious. It just fills that void of like wanting to destroy everything in your path, and it's dope as hell. Now, that final shot where Dan is diving after Muri is my favorite composition, my favorite shot, my favorite piece of cinematography, I reckon, in the history of movies that I've watched. Like, that piece is so gorgeous. Like, just the CGI mashes and like the music and the slow-mo. That's the one slow-mo moment that I love. Everything was amazing in that moment, and I really want to get that framed because it just looks so dope. It's such a good frame, such a good composition, and oh, it's something really good to end on. I love Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt's amazing, but like, he didn't seem like the right choice for this role. But like then again, he was, because he brought that, as I said at the start, that tender, that heartfelt, that heartwarming father figure kind of thing. Like, oh, I want Chris Pratt to be my dad and him to hug me. Like, he does bring that, but he's got the same problem that Ryan Reynolds does, and that's just, I can't take him seriously because all I see him as is that comedic person. Like, he was on Parks and Rec, which I haven't seen yet, but I've seen a lot of clips of him, and he's just that funny guy. And in Guardians of the Galaxy, you don't really take him seriously all that much, maybe for like 30% of the movie, then 70% of the movie is just comedy. But then towards the end of the movie, I kind of could take him a bit more seriously, and I could take him serious through certain moments, but like in his comedy moments, it brings me back to be like, he's just that guy who's there to make me laugh, and it just ruins it for me sometimes. But that's just my view on Chris Pratt. Like, I love him, he's amazing, but like, I can't see him as that super serious person, only as like that really soft character sometimes, and then that really funny character sometimes. And it's just the same problem with Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is just that funny guy, and he should be in only comedies and maybe comedic action and all that. Other than that, like, I can't see him in anything else, and I hate that, but it's just what I come to expect from these actors. I really want to talk about the pacing in this as well, because the pacing is all over the place. I loved the middle half of this movie, which is rare because middle parts of the movies are often really bad because characters are trying to go get the antidote or going to find the weapon that kills the beast and all that. But in this movie, the middle part was the best because the start was like, oh, there's people from the future. Then it was like, oh, we've got to go save these people from this medical facility and find out what these beasts look like and what they do and all that. Then the middle part came and it was like, whoa, destruction, you gotta get the antidote, and you gotta go back to your timeline, and you gotta save everybody, and whoa, we're being overrun. And then it was like, okay, that's all good, the portal's broken, you can't do anything, and then it stops, and then they end up going to Antarctica, Russia, and then they go blow the ship up, and then they have that final boss battle. But it just feels, the pacing's weird, like really weird. It starts, then stops, then starts, then big explosion, then just goes like down to nothing. Like, I thought after Miri died that the movie would end, but it kept on going, and I feel like maybe that's the reason. Maybe it was dragged out too much. They could have cut a lot of stuff. They could have replaced it with other stuff. And that kind of messed me over. I was kind of done after Miri died. I'm like, oh, cool, that's the big finale. But it kept on going. And I got kind of bored. And I gotta say that end battle, though, that end battle between the mother, the female alien, and Dan and Slade was dope. It was so much like a Resident Evil fight. It wasn't realistic at all. Like, to some measure it was. It was that Resident Evil, like, oh, you get your arm cut off, you can grow it back, or you can heal it with this magical goop liquid, and it was that kind of just silly, like, too far-fetched. But it was still dope. It was still a dope finale. So this movie isn't perfect, but I've got to say it's pretty dope. Like, yeah, as I said at the start of the review, it's a dope movie. It's a movie that you can just sit back and you don't have to think too much about, and you can just relax and just watch this explosive movie, and with good acting, like decent acting, perfect CGI and all that. It's just a great watch, but it's not perfect. But it's just that movie that you can come back to every now and again and be like, yeah, this is dope, I like this movie. So for that reason, I gave it 3.5 out of 5, not a 4, because I feel like 4 is like perfect, kind of, but it's still got like a little bit more to go. But this is amazing, and it's got like a lot it could fix, a lot it could add and all that. So if you agreed or disagree with anything I said in this video, comment it down below. We'll have a little movie discussion, a little rant, and we can just discuss how this movie is so cool, and also how it fails in some areas, and also if I mispronounce any of the actresses' names that are Australian that I should know. And if you have any movies you want me to review, or you just think I'd like in general, then put them down below and I'll have a look. Oh, I'm sorry. Comment it down below and I'll have a look at them, and maybe I'll review them in the near distant future when I get through all the millions of movies I gotta get through. But thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next review.